Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Mii Weekly, this time for Friday, December 31st, 2021, New Year's Eve, the final Friday of the year, the final day of 2021, and the final episode of this show, Mii Weekly. I'm Hero TJ with Nintendo Wire, coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan. In this edition, we're going to look back over the past year to spotlight some of Nintendo's most impactful moments. The presentation will favor more of an award show format, but the final selections in any given category are chosen by me, and are, of course, purely a matter of personal opinion. But with that in mind, I do encourage you to play along and leave your picks in the comments section below. Before we get started, I want to quickly acknowledge my friends and Nintendo Wire colleagues who inspired a number of these categories. Let's jump right in. Anyone who's been around Nintendo Wire from the beginning knows that this is first and foremost an Amiibo channel. We definitely love ourselves some Amiibo, and guess what? 2021 did deliver on some pretty great new additions to the collection. But what was the best Amiibo of 2021? Let's do a quick refresher. We got 3 new entries in the Smash Bros. Series, Banjo and Kazooie, Terry, and Byleth, which rounds out the DLC fighters from Fighters Pass 1. We also got the highly unexpected and highly detailed Cat Mario and Cat Peach, in conjunction with Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. And surprising as it may seem, most of the Amiibo we got this year were not even released by Nintendo, but Capcom, coming in big with Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter Stories 2. We also got this pretty sweet pair from Metroid Dread, including Samus and the Emmy robot. All worthy additions to be sure, and truth be told, the functionality of all of them is pretty lackluster in my opinion, so my criteria for this year is mostly based on aesthetic appeal, and in that regard, the Zelda and Loftwing Amiibo is tough to top. That's my pick for the best Amiibo of 2021. The next category is Best Non-tendo Game. I think most of us can agree the main reason why we purchase Nintendo consoles is because we want to play Nintendo games. And when it comes to first-party, Nintendo just cannot be beat. But that's not to say they don't get some awesome titles from other developers. I had a pretty amazing and long overdue time this year with Castlevania Advance Collection. This is definitely, in my opinion, the best way to play these games. I did miss them the first time around, so I had an undeniably great time catching up, but if I had to recognize a game as the best non-Nintendo game, it's really tough to overlook Monster Hunter Rise. This game was extremely well received. Here in Asia, it's a sales behemoth. It's actually the first game that I bought for the Nintendo Switch where there was actually a line to pick it up, and it's the most difficulty I had acquiring the Amiibo. So while admittedly this game didn't set my soul on fire, it is the first Monster Hunter game that I was able to roll credits on. And I will confess that is in large part because I joined forces with my brother, who is a little bit of a Monster Hunter wizard, and I probably wouldn't have beat it without him. But because this game was able to hold my attention at all, I'd say that's an extreme credit to the improvements made in the series. Next up, Best Non-Gaming Product. Nintendo's really been stepping up their merchandising game. We got new Lego sets. As always, First 4 Figures is continuing to kill it with unbelievable high detail statues, all kinds of Nintendo apparel. I still think those Animal Crossing shoes look super stupid. No offense if you're wearing them, I'm sure you're rocking them. We got all kinds of new Jack Specific figures. I absolutely love what Medicom is doing with these ultra detail Legend of Zelda figures. I'd love to add these 3 to my collection, but they are impossible to find. But the top prize in this category for me goes to the 4 miniature statues only available at the Nintendo store in Japan. These are small scale versions of the life-sized art installations on display in the store. They're super amazing and super expensive. I'm sure I'll never own them, but they sure do look awesome. Next up, I want to recognize the biggest surprise of 2021. I would say this one was a tough pick. I mean, we did get a 2D Metroid revival completely out of the blue. Insiders were all but convinced that Metroid Dread was nothing but vaporware, and yet this year it was not only announced, it was released. That would be shocking enough, but truth be told, it was not even this year's biggest surprise. Nothing could prepare Nintendo fans for the announcement of the Super Mario movie cast. Across the board, this was straight up bonkers. If I didn't know what to expect before, with Chris Pratt as Mario and Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, trying to predict what this movie is gonna be goes beyond the limited confines of my imagination. I generally try to be a pretty positive guy. Lord knows there's enough negativity in the world without me having to add to it, but nobody's perfect, certainly not me, and not Nintendo. So in this next category, I want to reflect on Nintendo's biggest misstep of 2021. And for this one, it's not even a contest. The announcement, release and implementation of Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion was a complete and utter disaster. Not only was it weirdly shoehorned into the end of an Animal Crossing Direct and grossly overpriced, but at the end of the day, the quality of the product is inferior to the original versions of these games, and that, in my opinion, is just unacceptable. It demonstrates how in many ways Nintendo is still quite tone deaf. To date, I believe it's still Nintendo's most disliked video. A lot of criticism was thrown at them, and you know what? They kind of deserved it. Before we get back to the sunshine, one more sour subject. I promise this is the last one. What was Nintendo's biggest missed opportunity of 2021? Was it the lackluster Mario Golf? Was it the bafflingly ill-conceived Pikmin Bloom? Perhaps. But for me, sadly, it was the nearly complete ignoring of The Legend of Zelda 35th anniversary. After all the pomp and circumstance Mario received last year, a lot of us were really hoping we were going to get something similar for The Legend of Zelda, and unfortunately that just didn't materialize. Next, let's talk about the best DLC. Sometimes games release great as they are, like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and the DLC just makes it even better. Sometimes a game releases incomplete, but DLC can help bring it up to where it's supposed to be, like Kirby Star Allies. This year, we got DLC added to Mario Golf, but I can't really say it did much. Pokemon Snap got a little morsel, but it didn't really move the needle there. I did really enjoy my time with the DLC from Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, but the top DLC for 2021 undoubtedly goes to Super Smash Bros. For their final Fighters Pass character, Sora from Kingdom Hearts. And I don't say this as a Kingdom Hearts fan. In fact, I've never even played a Kingdom Hearts game. But going back to 2020 even, I curated a list of characters that I predicted to be part of Fighters Pass 2, and I included Sora on that list because I really thought that he was the most impossible get. The sort of contractual gymnastics required between Square, Disney, and Nintendo to make this entry a reality boggles the mind. And I knew if Mr. Sakurai wanted to end on a high note, he was gonna go big, and big he did. Honestly, the shock still hasn't worn off. Sora is far from my favorite character in Smash, but he tops the chart as most impressive. And now let's talk about Nintendo's best remake of 2021. We all know Nintendo loves to repackage games from the past and sell them to us again at full price. And in 2021, we sure did get a bevy of them. But which one was the best? Was it Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl? Or maybe Skyward Sword with optional button controls? Anyone who's been around here recently knows that I love me some Miitopia. I've made no secret of the fact that Miitopia is my game of the year, but I never actually played the original version of the game, so I don't really have much of a means of comparison. So I don't know that it's really fair to say that it's actually the best remake. A game that I did play to death though on the Wii U, and then again this year on the Nintendo Switch, is Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. The game was great before, and it's even better now. I can't overstate how much better the game feels at 12% increased speed. That's literally the definition of a game changer. And Bowser's Fury, in my humble opinion, is the best 3D Mario experience to date, and I hope a sign of things to come in the next 3D Mario game. We're getting towards the end of it now, only 2 more categories to go. Next, let's look at this year's best gaming experience. This category is extremely personal, and I imagine the answers will vary dramatically from person to person. But for me, there was nothing cooler than joining forces with all of my favorite Nintendo friends and going head to head with my Mii's eternal nemesis, Dark TJ. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that having Dark TJ appear in-game, pale skin and red eyes for the first time without any post-production effects was straight up surreal every single time I saw him. Definitely an unforgettable experience for me. And for the final category, let's take a look to the future, the most anticipated game of 2022. We've got heavy hitters like Mario, Splatoon, and Kirby on the horizon, but nothing comes close to matching my excitement for the sequel to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The trailers we've seen so far are rife with intrigue, mystery, the promise of exciting mechanics. Frankly, I can't wait. Here's one last look at my selections in each of the 10 categories. If you have a second, please stick around and leave your list in the comment section below. And that's a wrap on the final edition of Mii Weekly. When I set out on this endeavor at the beginning of January 2021, I had a goal of releasing a news and variety show every Friday for the entirety of 2021. I'm proud and gratified to say that that goal was accomplished. But I think I've pretty much taken this show as far as I can go. Of course, there'll still be more Nintendo news, and Nintendo Wire's not going anywhere, and I'm not going anywhere either. So stay wired in, as my friend Amiibo Jason likes to say. Expect to hear more from me real soon in in 2022, and I sincerely hope that I get to hear more from you too. Happy New Year! And here's wishing you a prosperous and adventurous 2022. Let's do this. This is Hero DJ signing out. Thanks for playing.